Hello, hello, peace and good health, everyone. How is it going? It is live time. I know I've been missing in action on the live feed, but we're gonna step this thing up. So we're gonna wait for everyone to get in. I'm gonna give a little minute for my partners to come in, and we're gonna have a nice, healthy discussion on some of the things that we should be doing as we come into the new year. Some helpful tips that we can apply to, help improve different things like digestion, how we're processing food. Because most of us, we run to the gym, right? We immediately get to the gym and, we're signing up and then we do it for about a week or so, maybe a month, and then we kind of fall off. So we're going to run over a couple of ideas that can actually help improve that gym experience, because a lot of times the gym is the opportunity where we have a chance to exert ourselves, but we may not have the internal energy that's necessary. And we're going to kind of go over a little bit of that. So, and then of course we're going to take a look at some of the questions that pops up, answer some questions. But I got a little list here, so we're going to go over a few things, some things that we tend to forget about. I know I do personally. I forget about a lot of this stuff, and it's good to kind of refresh yourself as we go into the new year. So we're going to definitely dive in on that. Let's see. Hello, hello, peace and good health.
they are severely dehydrated. And they don't look it, they don't have all those telltale signs, that you're looking for. And so we are a world in general of poorly hydrated people. Those are probably one of the main factors for a lot of the things that are going on because we're not flushing things out. We're not getting enough water. The water sucks. So do we have the minerals in there? So thinking about adding minerals to your water, even though the water claims that it may have some, it probably doesn't. So just think about those things because those are the things that make you hydrated. And when I say hydration, I don't just mean water. It could be your fruits. It can be those things that you enjoy. Because I know a lot of people will say, "Oh, I don't want to drink water." So do your research on, hydrating fruits, hydrating vegetables. How can I add this into my morning routine if I know I don't want to have a cup of water? I start my day every morning with water. I don't, before I brush my teeth, I got to get water because guess what? Everything's been sleep. It needs to now wake up and I need to flush out. And so in the sleep process, we should expect to go to the bathroom. That's why most of us jump up because we got to go. So I still want to just kind of flush out even more. So consider better hydrating yourself to start the new year if it's something that you haven't done. And we know we done partied. The summer has left. We've enjoyed life a little bit too much. This is, comfort food. So you want to start to flush all of that stuff out as much as possible. All the time. I don't want to just say at the top of the year, but just all the time. Just make it a common practice. Yes, you can add a little bit of lemon to it. You can infuse it with whatever it is that you like, whatever you need to do in order to get it down, because that's the biggest thing is that getting the water down or getting the hydration down. Even if it's just fruit, we don't, are you going to eat enough? Are you going to get enough? So that's just something to consider, and consider your weight, consider, your size, consider what you do based off of how much water you'll drink.
Awesome, awesome. We're gonna dive in a little bit on the hydration because you hit the nail on the coffee. You took my number two, but it's all good. So yeah, we're gonna talk a little bit more about this hydration because hydration oftentimes gets vastly overlooked, and how we're supposed to hydrate, when we should hydrate, how important hydration is. Like it plays such a huge factor in simply how your colon functions. So if we think about the detoxification process, our body detoxes itself generally third shift. That's where you're going to have the biggest quote unquote detoxing process. That's where your kidneys are allegedly going to turn off, your liver is going to turn on, and it's going to do that super deep cleansing and clean all the gook out, which means it's going to be using quite a bit of water. Then you have that first urine in the morning, and that first urine is usually all the stuff that your liver had, which is why hospitals generally don't want that first urine, because it's grossly disgusting, it's filthy, it's dirty, and it's the worst. If we want to get a measurement of what's going on with the kidneys, we're going to use the second urine or anything from the second and first and second shift, which is generally all day. Now, when it comes to hydrating and detoxification, the natural process that the body is using for detoxing, that's going to carry all the way into the morning. So if you're, sleeping at night and you wake up first thing in the morning, your body is still detoxing. So the first thing a lot of people do is they look for something to eat. You're not supposed to be looking for nothing to eat right away. We're supposed to be hydrating. Hydration, and again, like Taushie said, hydration is managing electrolytes, because you can drink tons of water and drop your potassium levels and have way too much salt later on and throw off your sodium potassium ratio, and you are no longer hydrated. Okay. And then you're going to start retaining water. You're going to throw off the body's natural electricity. So hydration for me looks like any type of infused water first thing in the morning. So I've lately have grown very partial to making raisin water. Okay, and I'll store that in the refrigerator, and I'll use that as one of my sources of hydration. I'll drink clove water first thing in the morning on an empty stomach. Remember, hydration is on an empty stomach. Okay, so it's the first thing you consume. I drink these at room temperature or warmer, not cold. Lemon water works perfectly. Okay, some people like to use lemon water. You can even use, I've actually done this instead of lemon. I've started switching in pure cranberry juice. Okay, I'll add that. Whatever floats your boat, whatever you can think of. Generally, if something calls to you, give it a shot. But as long as you're putting some life into your water, it could be peppermint leaves, it could be anything, but you want to put something that has living molecules, because what that's going to do is going to separate the water molecules that coagulate. And I'll probably get into that a little bit later on. But hydration, absolutely number one. It continues that detoxification process because, in my opinion, it's just an opinion. I don't diagnose, prognosticate, and or treat. I won't touch any food until after 12. I may eat around 12 or 1 o'clock, but generally I push all the way till anywhere between like 4 to 6 p.m. Go ahead, Dr. Renata. I know you got something to add to hydration.
Oh, something to drop. But that's my alley. Anytime I talk about hydration to people, people don't remember the electrolytes. The electrolytes are magnesium, potassium, sodium, and chloride. That's going to be for just about muscle propagation in your heart. People aren't paying attention that it's sometimes the smallest thing is going to make the biggest difference. And a lot of times what we're treating when it comes to healthcare, when we're treating dehydration and we look and give you the signs of dehydration, that means you're almost done. Once you get to the headache, that means you're ready to pass out. And we have to slowly give you fluids at that point. So a lot of times the signs that we're trying to give you to say, oh, you're dehydrated, it's too late. It's too late. You can sometimes see in your fingernails. It depends on how healthy your nails and your body is. You can see in different things like that in your skin turgor. You can see in those things. But a lot of times it is at the last moment that you will know and understand, hey, I'm dehydrated. It's a little bit kind of late that we're giving you these signs. So that's why it's important to stay hydrated. Something I use, and I probably tell a lot of my patients and clients that come into my live, is I always talk about trace minerals. But the reason I talk about it is because I'm a person who's on medication, and you have to be a little bit more cognizant. And I used to have to know how much of those electrolytes are going into my water, how much I'm getting, because a lot of that is still important too. Magnesium is in over 300 processes in the body, just about everything. Your energy levels, even to put you to sleep, that's magnesium. That's playing a role in that. And a lot of times, a lot of you are like, I have no energy. Did you really hydrate? Well, I've just been drinking water all day. Well, you've lost a lot of magnesium. And a lot of times magnesium is needed in stress. A lot of those other things, sodium, potassium pumps, your muscles moving, all those things happen when adrenaline comes in. And so when you have stress and you add all those things in, you're going to lose electrolytes and more electrolytes then because your body is working in overdrive. So hydration is important at every aspect. And we just think we're 70% water, yes, but we're also those minerals that water needs to carry around and put in places, and water breaks up so that it can move other things. So it's definitely a balancing act. And it's going to be a balancing act, and everybody's is going to be different. Like you said, it has to be based on weight. It's based on if you're taking drugs. Oh, I shouldn't have said it like that. If you're taking medications, if you're anything that you're taking or doing, what is your activity like? Are you always working out? How much water do you lose? How much do you sweat? Some people sweat more than others. Your body holds on to water, so you have to start knowing that. What do you know about your water? Coconut water? I love coconut water. That's my other option. Passion fruit in a coconut water. Things that have minerals. Fruits are great. Like she said, coconut water is number one, but a lot of people don't like the taste. So throw a little lime juice in there. You can also try, like you said, there's raisin water. I use cranberry. I use lemon. There's so many other things. Celtic salt people use. There's a whole lot of other ones that they're trying to bring out. But be careful of the sugar that they're putting a lot of those. Any opinion on ocean salts? Ocean salts are a good one. The one I was talking about, trace minerals, isn't ocean. It's like a concentrated ocean, like seawater. And that's basically like the ocean salt, but you just have the measurements. That's the only reason I give about that one, because a lot of people don't know what's going on with their body, and it's better for you to have measurements and you to measure up rather than jump in. Because a lot of people like to jump in, and the next thing you know, they may be passed out then because they're doing too much and they don't know exactly everything that they're doing. So that's just me.
I remember I used to, when I was hypertensive, I would always try to go for a jog. I would only be able to jog like 2 or 3 miles back then. And I'd go for a jog, and it wouldn't be, I don't know, maybe a quarter of a mile, and my hands would just swell up. I mean, they would just feel like Vienna sausages. And I was like, what the heck is going on? And, I was told it was a blood pressure issue. I was also told that I need to lower my salt intake. And, after, a lot of understanding of the human body, I found out what worked for me, that it actually wasn't my salt intake. It was my choice of salts, but it was how much potassium I was taking in, because I was watering down my potassium. My potassium was basically going getting flushed out, and I'd still have entirely too much salt in the body, which was causing my hands to swell up. Some people experience this, maybe their feet might swell as well. And potassium is not an easy, electrolyte to get our hands on, because 9 times out of 10, it's going to be found in fruits and vegetables, which nobody is ever eating enough of. Because when we find out exactly, thank you, I don't know what that was, but a lot of us don't eat enough of it, and
You got a goal
don't
up
know
there. They're just
exactly how
clearing out
much.
your goal.
Oh, okay. Because a lot of us, we don't know how much we're supposed to consume, so we'll probably touch on that a little bit later, in contrast to the other foods that we're eating, which is the carbohydrates, which is your animal proteins, because I'm not going to tell you not to eat it, but there's a certain amount that we're supposed to consume at a time, and when we're supposed to consume it, because everything is meant to be equally balanced, so, but like some omnivores, we have to balance it out with a hefty amount of fibrous foods. That's going to be your fruits, your vegetables. That's where we're going to get the majority of our potassium. I know one of my favorite sources that, really played a huge factor in balancing out my potassium was kiwis. And I would actually consume the entire kiwi. I actually eat the skin of the kiwi. If I can get them organic and clean, I'm eating the whole thing, because the skin of the kiwi has a tremendous amount of fiber, and it will feed a lot of bacteria. If fiber is one of the reasons why you're not pooping, you're going to take a dump the next day. That's for sure. And I would eat about 4 to 5 of them. And I used that to get my potassium levels back up, because kiwis do have far more potassium than bananas. And it's, in my opinion, more efficient, because bananas, there's some things I don't like about bananas, but we won't get into that. But, bananas have their place. But if you're looking for good sources of potassium, your coconut water, I think seen someone mention it before, that's an excellent source. Coconut in and of itself is a great source of potassium. Of course, our potatoes and our sweet potatoes are great sources as well. And if you're ever in a place where, potassium levels are just entirely too low, there is another trick that I used to use. I would take potato skins and boil them and drink the water. Watch what happens to your potassium. It's amazing how effective it is. I don't diagnose, prognosticate, and or treat. This is just something that I read in a comic book. But give it a shot. Let me know how it works for you.
Definitely works. That's what I got out of Native American cookbook, because I had to get the potassium off potatoes if I wanted to eat them, and I had to boil them like that. And that's what has the most. That's where you get the most water. And somebody said Himalayan salt is the best. I beg to differ on that one, and I beg to differ because the way our society does, when something has become a trend or we like something, we kill it. Oh, I shouldn't have said that word. But yeah, we mess it up. We overproduce, we overconsume. And so that is going to mess up the source and the way we extract it, because it's going to start being poorly extracted. So you have to be careful if you are getting something like Himalayan salt. You have to be careful about Celtic salt is a good one, but you have to watch how popular it's getting, how much it's being consumed, how many companies are jumping in the game with that. If it's still the same 2 companies, the more and more companies that jump in the game, the more and more issues you're going to start to have with some of those things that might come up, and you need to make sure that you're really looking at a reputable source of that company. Has that company changed owners, or has another corp bought them out? Those are always telling. Do they source differently? How are they sourcing? Are they keeping up with production? Because it's okay if they don't keep up with production. Because if they don't keep up with the production, that's telling you that they're going with how the actual whatever extraction process they're using, they're trying to stick with it and stay with that extraction process. They're not trying to overdo it and over extract. Because a lot of times, if they're keeping up with consumers and ahead of it, then that's when they're probably trying to overproduce, farm, or make something that is not, take it out of its natural realm. How would I say that?
Yeah, once it becomes popular, you can pretty much forget it. And pink Himalayan salt became entirely too popular. So there's some.
That I know it's super trendy. So is almond milk, kale, and avocados. You still have to be careful about where those are produced too, and who's producing those. You can't get everybody's almond milk, because now they have fillers and gums and too much of that. So it all depends. And the thing is, go what works for you, because that regular almond milk or that regular Himalayan salt, if it's doing the trick, I say do it. If it's doing the trick for you.
I became partial to Hawaiian black salt. That's been my go-to. And because it's not popular, no one's really using it. It has an interesting taste for cooking. I think I like it for cooking. But because it's not that popular, it's an excellent source. And we want to start using the things that are not commonly used, because the minute large industry knows that they can make a quick buck on it, they're going to buy it. I mean, as much as I used to love the Siete brand, they sold, and now we know that it's not going to be the same. So the minute a large industry gets their hands on it, it's their job to try to make as much money as possible by any means necessary. And we've seen this with a lot of different products. So I've been partial to Hawaiian black salt. And, actually to touch on how to really get the most out of hydration with salt, if you're going to use salt water in the morning, is actually to not put your salt in the water, because the magnesium qualities of the salt is water hungry. So it's going to actually go right into the molecules of water. It's going to get dissolved too quickly, and you're not going to get the benefits. You would actually take, what I like to do is put a pinch of the salt in my palm. I lick the salt and I hold it to the roof of my mouth. Okay. And I'll just leave it there for a few seconds. Then I drink my, 24 or 32 ounces, depending on how I feel. I'll drink my room temperature or warmer water behind it. And that's how I'll bring in my salt. And if the salt is a good salt, you know what salt does? Opens up dopamine receptors. You're actually going to feel kind of happy all of a sudden. You're going to feel good. You're going to be like, man, I feel pretty good. Let me get my swag on. And you're going to be on your way. Because salt is supposed to help you with your dopamine. So if it's a good quality salt, you'll have that response. If trace elements is a problem, and sometimes this is oftentimes connected to people who suffer with headaches and migraines, and you happen to use salt after getting a headache or a migraine, and it improves the headache or migraine, then we know that somewhere down the road that there is a deficiency in specific trace elements and minerals, and that may be one of the causes or contributors to those headaches or migraines. I read this in a comic book, of course.
Let's get some of the questions. Somebody asked, where can they get their electrolytes checked? You would just have to get your blood drawn to see where they are, so that you will know. Don't add anything until you know. Someone else asked about, oh, I lost it. Somebody asked, can you make your own almond milk? Yes, you can. Probably be the best way to make it. Yeah, I think that was it.
Yeah.
Oh, someone asked about curing cystic acne. The first thing I would say is you probably need a detox.
Absolutely. So I always like to reference the skin in holistic healing. We reference the skin as your third kidney. It is your third kidney, which means your skin is also used to help cleanse and filter. All right. And if your body will sometimes make an administrative decision to decide if it wants to utilize the skin as its filter, because the skin is generally much easier to replicate the cells. Okay, the kidney cells, they're tough. You want to save those for a rainy day, but it'll actually use the skin, and this is one of the reasons why things like acne and eczema permeate, because sometimes the translocated fungus and bacteria will use the skin, and it'll kind of push those toxins from like the rhizomes of candida to the through the subcutaneous level of the skin, and then once they reach the surface, they oxidize. You have your result. This is why, dermatology, it's great, but generally, for the most part, it's almost as though we're always testing things with dermatology. Let's try this and see if it works. Let's try that and see if it works. Let's stimulate and add a steroid and see if we can get it to move a little bit faster, but then it creates a dependency, you see. So keeping in mind that the skin is also a detoxifier, and it's considered to be a third kidney according to holistic healing, that means which organs or organ systems need help. And chances are it's the liver, because the liver has over 500 different functions. And once the liver starts to become burdened, and let me tell you something, just living in the US, your liver's under a lot of burden, period. That's hands down. No one is running around here with a clean, perfect liver. And you would never know, because we don't give good tests on the liver other than whether or not your enzymes are a little too high. So you can have an liver that's not broken, which is what they'll tell you. It's not broken yet, but they're not telling you if your liver is optimal. You understand? We don't know what that looks like because we don't test for it, in Western medicine. So making sure that you're able to detoxify the liver and take the pressure off of the other organ systems, such as the kidneys, such as the thyroid, such as the skin, is going to be your primary target.
She said she lives in a moldy trailer and she got her wisdom teeth removed. Those could play huge parts.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Let me see. All right. I got a third one here. I don't know. We might have said it already. So the third one that I have here is increase fiber intake. Fiber's important. I'm going to let you have this one, Dr. Renata. Go ahead.
I just did a video on fiber. And in true sources of fiber, a lot of people are trying to use Metamucil, Citrical, because that's what we're told fiber is. No, that's not fiber. That's not what fiber is at all. That's not going to help you do anything, but make it worse. A lot of times, the fiber that we need, nobody's eating. Fruits, vegetables, even if you can't get organic, if you're just eating fruits and vegetables, you're going to get at least a minimal benefit, which is going to be fiber and at least a minimal of vitamins and minerals. Because I know everybody can't afford organic out there. Everybody can't get everything, but fiber is going to be necessary for your gut health, which is what? That's your second brain. That's your immune system. That's the basis almost of your body. That's your liver as well as your colon. And your I can't even think. Why did I just lose it? Your colon and all that large intestines, small intestines, those all play a huge part. And if your body can't get rid of things, what are you going to have? Disease.
Absolutely.
Some kind of autoimmune or immune disease, it even plays a role in estrogen, moving those things out, moving estrogen through the body. A lot of us are having PCOS issues, fibroid issues, and fiber is going to play the huge part in helping a lot of those things move out. I use Metamucil to feel full while fasting. I would rather you do a little psyllium husk if you're going to do something, because it's going to be more effective and it's going to make you feel fuller longer. And it's going to be more effective when it comes to your blood sugar, when it comes to your cholesterol, when it comes to all of that, when it comes to cleaning out your liver and cleaning out your small intestines and large intestines.
Absolutely. I think I did a video on, someone had asked about juice fasts, and I wanted to reference the importance of, if you are doing like a juice fast, what you're doing, because what we're doing with a juice fast is we're removing all of the pulp and all of the fiber to access the sugar and the phytonutrients, right? That's good. But let's keep in mind that fiber functions like a sustained release matrix. Its job is to slow down the absorption of sugar in the body. It slows it down. What happens when people experience things like, when sugar is going out of whack? When that sugar is going out of whack, it's because sometimes there's not enough fiber to slow the release of sugar in the body. For example, wild rice or brown rice will slow it, which is why you find yourself chewing all day to try to get that rice emulsified in your mouth, right? When it comes to eating rice such as white rice has the hull removed, which means there's no sustained release matrix, there's less fiber, and guess what happens? When it enters into your body, that sugar skyrockets very quickly. And it's like your insulin and your pancreas has to wake up and start working to get through. And then it crashes. And it's that constant up and down that can oftentimes confuse the body because it's now being triggered too quickly. But when there's fiber attached to the meal, it slows the amount of sugar. So it has an opportunity to climb up slowly, which means your body does not have to work as fast. And then it has a chance to kind of parachute its way down. Okay, so making sure that we're taking in tons of fiber is extremely important. And I always recommend, this is what I do. I consume minimum of 4 cups of vegetables and or a combination of fruit and or vegetables before I look at anything else in my meal. Minimum 4 cups. And I mean, it's usually a big, massive plate of whatever I'm going to consume, whether they're cooked, whether they're raw. Some of it may be a little bit of fruit prior to. I'll talk a little bit about that as well. And then I'll have what my protein source is. Then I may consume a small amount of carbs or a small amount of fat, and then, pretty much done from there. But fiber is extremely important. Fiber also plays a huge factor in whether or not your microbiome will function appropriately. And your microbiome is that's everything. If your microbiome is not getting food, then you cannot expect your bacteria to do their job. And the job that a lot of our bacteria has, some of them, like Acidophilus rhamnosus, is responsible for whether or not you get depressed or not. And if you don't feed that, you're going to experience depression or layers of or types of depression. Ask me how I know. So a lot of our bacteria requires the fiber. And even though we directly don't utilize it, the bacteria that lives within us, which of course we're 70% bacteria, fungus, pathogens, everything that lives on and within us, they need to eat too. And if we don't support them, then guess what happens? The bad bacteria, the likes that function like cannibals, will start eating them. And then we start having larger problems that are going to be connected to the symptoms of things like parasite activity, overgrowth of yeast and candida. And we see these symptoms all the time.
And the thing is, if you're going to start fiber, I meant to say this, start slowly. Don't jump to 4 cups like him. He's already there. Start slowly. Start slowly. Because a lot of times,
Be in the bathroom mad.
but not even that, you might be constipated because you're eating so much fiber, but you may not be matching your hydration and your water to it. Because it's going to have to be a balance to it. Some people like to jump into having all that fiber, and then next, they're like, I'm constipated. Fiber's a bad guy. I don't want to deal with fiber anymore. No, let's slowly add it, 5 grams at a time if you can. And because if we're jumping to something, you're just going to make it harder for yourself. So, and you're not going to stick to it if you jump to it. So just take it slowly. Add a little bit more vegetables instead of making it a quarter of your plate. Make it a little bit more of like half of your plate. If you can't do something like that, do like a plate method to see how many veggies and how many fruits you're doing.
Agreed, especially if you're using a fiber. Like a lot of people like to use psyllium husk, and I like using psyllium husk. It's almost like a staple in every one of my detoxes. Psyllium husk absorbs 10 times its weight in water. 10 times its weight in water. So if you take a teaspoon of psyllium husk, pour a few ounces of water in there, it will soak it all up and turn into a gel. You'll be able to turn it upside down. It will not move. Okay, that's how powerful psyllium is. It has a very high absorption rate. Also, keep in mind that your colon, in order to properly function, requires at least 1 liter of water in and of itself. It requires a liter just to function. So if you're not consuming enough water, don't even think about looking at any type of supplemental fiber. Get into using water first, and then I always suggest if you are going to use a supplemental fiber to include that with tons of water on top of it to make sure that you are maintaining a good level of hydration, or else it'll end up backfiring on you and it can cause constipation. Again, if you are already experiencing constipation or slow bowels, I would not implement supplemental fiber in that manner. I would have something that has some hydration or phytochemical compounds in it, such as general fruits and vegetables. And then those will have a higher transit time and they will move through the body a lot faster. Whereas a psyllium, it's going to go in and it's going to sit and it's going to soak. And it can cause some other issues if it's not properly moving. It'll cause some stagnancy in the bowel. So if you're pooping once every other day, I would reach out to a holistic practitioner or a naturopath or herbalist or somebody on the panel and have us help figure out what's causing or contributing to that level of constipation before implementing fiber. Because sometimes just going directly to a supplemental fiber like plain psyllium can actually be a little bit of a problem. All right. Yeah, I'm going to scroll through and see if there's any questions.
Somebody did want to know what fruits are fibrous. I say berries, kiwi, dragon fruit. Anything else?
I always said that a lot of the fruits that would generally not spike your sugar are going to be the berries, because if you consume the berries, their sugar content is almost equal to their fiber content, right? Problem with some of the citrus fruits is that what prevents the sugar from having a high glycemic index is the skin of the fruit. And that's the skin of the orange. But orange skin, as we know, does wonderful things for our skin and wonderful things for our colon. So it's the fiber that we're supposed to consume. Even when it comes to like lemons and grapefruits, we're actually supposed to eat that stuff. But we don't know what they're spraying it with. We don't know how genetically modified it may be. We don't know a lot of things. So we kind of have to get rid of the skin for the most part, or at the very least, clean it really well with either an acidic or alkaline solution and then scrape off the top layer, the very thin top layer, the zest, so to speak. And then that white part of that citrus can do some very interesting and powerful things inside the body. Again, I like to use kiwis, but I'll eat the skin to prevent my sugar from spiking through the roof. Because if I eat just the kiwi inside, it's sweet and it's tasty and I like it, but I can feel the high because I like to eat at least three or four of them, in a row. But when I eat them with the fiber, it's a very, very slow absorption of the sugar. So a lot of our fruits, the berries are going to be the primary go-to because they almost balance themselves out in regards to not having enough sugar to offset the amount of fiber that it has. And since no one's really eating the skins on a lot of the citrus fruits, we're always peeling them, tossing the skin. I actually save my skin and I dry it, and then I'll use it as an additive for different compounds that I'll make.
So I'm going to go to another one. I am big on starting the year decluttering. All aspects. I do my phone, the stuff you don't think about. Clean out your emails, clean out your phone, clean out your spaces. If you haven't used it all year, get rid of it. If you don't have a plan to use it, get rid of it. We hold on to a lot of, I'm a hold on person, stuff thinking we're going to use it, we're going to make some, we're going to figure out something to do. I have for the last few years have been consistent about like now is my time. I'm decluttering. I'm moving stuff out. I'm getting rid of this. If we haven't used it, we get it out the house. And as far as everything, work emails, get rid of them. All of the extra stuff that we don't even go back and look at. Like I got 5,000 emails, and like how many of my am I really going to go back and look at and read? If I missed it, I missed it. And so I think that that's a big thing to consider at the top of the year is to declutter all aspects of your home, your space, your whatever is your space, declutter it, your car, all of those things, because a clear mind will allow you to do so many different things that you didn't realize that you were doing because you just kind of operate in clutter.
You typing. That's what
Yeah, I was answering some of the questions.
I just heard you click, 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 click. No, but that's what I'm talking about. Remove people, places. Somebody just called me. I had a different client call, and I was like, "Oh, okay. What you need? You need some? You need me? You need a question?" She was like, "Should I quit this job?" And I was like, "Whoa!" And I was like, "What's going on?" She was like, "Well, I feel like I'm at my wits end." And she told me she was just giving all, and she's tired and she's sick, and she can't get rid of this cough. She has no energy. She has nothing. If you are sick and that job is killing you, go. Go. I did. I did. I mean, if you believe in something that's higher than you, then it will take care of you. Go, because you're not taking care of yourself. You're not taking care of yourself at all. Thank you, the pure life. You're not. You need to take care of yourself in order for you to be at your optimal health. You could be eating the greatest diet. I promise you, I was eating the greatest diet and still harming yourself with the people and the job that you're around. Overworking, overgiving, overdoing. You're not going to be able to have a good habit no matter what habits you have. It's going to go all down the drain because you're keeping certain people in your life that are taking from you, a job that is just taking from you, not giving back. You got to go. You got to go. I don't care if it looks like your life is going to fall apart. Let it fall apart. That will be the greatest thing that will happen to you if you let your life fall apart. That was the greatest thing that happened to me. Let it fall apart. Let it all fall. Because then you can build it back better. Then you can find something better. Then you can see what you really need. Then you can tap into you. Because once you've done all that for everybody else or taken care of everybody else or overworked yourself and made sure everything was good, who's making sure you're good? because those people are already dependent on you to do everything else. So they're not looking to take care of you and make sure you're good. Most of those people aren't. And if it's somebody that cares about you, they're gonna be like, okay, you need to sit down. You need to sit down. You're doing too much. Your health is our house is an array. Your health is an issue. You're making this harder on yourself, and that's not what I need you to do.
Absolutely. The outside represents the inside, and they all almost always overlap. So like when I, take on a client, I have them answer questions about their emotional state, their mental state, how they're handling stress and anxiety, because all of those things have been proven, you know, according to several different studies. They're proven to have a direct effect on your physical health. This is just how the body functions. The body will always have a physical expression to some of the things that we're experiencing emotionally. So if you're under stress, we just take stress for an example and how it changes the body. If you are under stress, either from your boss, running from bears, the human body does not know any difference between running away from a tiger or going to a job that you can't stand and dealing with a boss that gives you anxiety every time they walk out their office. The human body has no idea anything to do with the difference. What happens when you're under stress? Number one, your body will not process protein the same way. Because when you consume that healthy meal that is supposed to be good for you, it's balanced. You had a piece of wild caught salmon with some huge 3 cups of vegetables and a little side of some healthy fats. You did all the things right. You know what will happen if you're under stress? Your body will take that protein and convert it into a fast reproducing sugar and say, well, you're going to need some of this protein and we're going to make a sugar out of it. And then the rest of it, we're going to have to pass this off the parasites because we can't process it because we can't get the HCl where it needs to be. You understand? So now what ends up happening is stress becomes one of the biggest contributing factors to people suffering and dealing with diabetes, dealing with uncontrollable sugar, because your body has to manage that cortisol, which is classified as a glucocorticoid. There's a glucose component, and in order for your liver to process that, guess what ends up happening? You wake up first thing in the morning after having a salad last night, and you look and your sugar's like through the absolute roof, and you're like, I ate a salad. Why is my sugar high? There's a reason for it. Stress can contribute to that. So anytime there's emotions that are involved, emotions, we call that psychoneuroimmunology. And these psychoneuroimmunology is where we start seeing how emotions, stress factors, anxiety, spiritual aspect, all of those things are combined and overlapped with the physical expression that the human body has. They're always validating one another. One gives way to the other. Liver has always been interconnected with anger, resentment, and hatred. Kidneys have always been correlated to like fear and anxiety and stress. You're going to have grief is oftentimes interconnected with the lungs and how we're breathing. So all of these organ systems oftentimes have an emotional connection to it. And we've seen this time and time again where we're able to use them to help validate some of the experiences that a client may or may not be having. So when it comes to managing your health, dealing with the outside clutter is how we're going to fix the inside clutter as well.
And to come back to that, I'm actually still doing a series on that, just how the different body parts, the emotions that we hold on to with those body parts, how they may be showing physically, and it sometimes it may not even be a true physical ailment or illness or something that's going on. It could just be emotionally what you've held on to for so long that's what it's presented as. And when you fix that one issue, you see that, oh, you know what, my back that's been hurting, I've been to the doctor, I've been everywhere, they've sent me here, they've done all of these tests. Once you deal with whatever that emotional thing that's attached to it, you find that, oh, my back is no longer hurting. And so we have so many stresses that we don't sit down and we don't process, we bury it, and then we feel it because it's gonna exacerbate somewhere in the body. And so that's one thing that you got to work on. So that's why I have become very big on decluttering, saying what I think, even when people don't like it, because when you hold on to it and you don't let it go, energy doesn't die. It just goes somewhere else.
Also taking on energy. You got to be careful about whose energy are you around, who are you taking on, because a lot of times some of us are a receiver and are able to take other people's energy. I know that was something I could do. That was something that I could do, but I was taking on some of the wrong people's energy, their negativity, their hurt, their pain, and it wasn't my job to carry it. Whose stuff are you carrying? That's what you need to declutter, because a lot of times the emotions sometimes that you're feeling, that could be somebody else's. The depression, that could be a part of somebody else's stuff. Anxiety, straight up somebody else's stuff. It may not even be your anxiety. It could be like, think about this. You know those people that get emotional support dogs, now their dog has anxiety? Because they just transferred it to the dog and they're hoping the dog will transmute it. And sometimes it's too much anxiety because they're not dealing with their own. It's just going to pass through an energetic cycle until you deal with it. That can pass down to your children. That can pass anywhere until somebody breaks that cycle. And you have to start understanding how to deal with your emotions, what to do, what to say, what to not say. Sometimes you don't need to say shit. And that'll help your emotions and that'll help you release a lot of stuff. Because sometimes you're responding and arguing. A lot of y'all have inflammation because you're arguing somebody you don't even need to be arguing with. You're having a conversation with somebody that don't even deserve your time. You're giving energy to somebody that is not even helping you. They just want to take that power from you because they know you're going to react. They know you're a reactor. So they're like, I got that energy from them. Energy vampire. You just dealt with one. A lot of narcissists. We have them in America. They're your bosses that don't know anything, that don't know how to do work, but they don't like themselves, but they need your energy to survive. So that's a lot of things that are playing a huge role that y'all got to pay attention to. You got to pay attention to those small things. How are you responding? How do you see it? What does your mind tell you it is? Because you get to decide what you're scared of and what you're not scared of. Somebody else told you that was a fear. Your parents, the world. You should be scared of that. Why are you scared of that?
Absolutely. When we get stressed, the minute we have a stressful event, you're stressed for an hour, at least an hour, which means even if it wasn't even worth getting stressed over. I remember, so long time, not a long time ago, but several years ago, I used to work in state law enforcement and I was a state correctional officer. So, working in corrections, it was very stressful. And we already were at a very high stress point because we were walking around waiting for something to happen. That's what we got paid for. We're waiting for something to happen. If that bell went off or the radio went off or someone blew a whistle, adrenaline would hit like that. And I mean, I would feel my heart jump out my chest. I'm running 500 miles an hour. Everyone's bumping into each other. We're trying to figure out what's going on. And then you find out, oh no, false alarm. Instant headache. And everyone's jittery for the next hour and 10 minutes at least, and we would experience this time and time again because, again, the body actually stays stressed for over an hour just from one possible event, and that's something that we do want to keep in mind, that our minds are still going and we're still releasing that cortisol. And, sometimes if it's possible, when you have the ability to control yourself and the encounters, you want to try to put in a mechanism to allow yourself to kind of diffuse that so that people don't get that stressful and anxious version of you, because that just ends up throwing us off. It ruins your sleep. It just causes a host of problems. You're not going to eat the same. That's why when a person has a fear-like response, sometimes the response is their stomach loses all the blood and you throw up, because all the blood had to leave your gut so it can go to your muscular tissues for the physical response, right? So the body is kind of trying to defend itself and protect itself. And in some cases, it may not do that. It may not, it wants me to say I'm alive. Okay, so let's do this. There we go. So sometimes it may not release, but whatever you were consuming is not going to get digested, so that's not going to happen. And now you have a partially digested meal because all your blood had to leave your gut and go to your muscular tissue, and it's going to be sitting there for at least an hour. Also, the blood's going to move from the brain as well, so you're going to lose quite a bit in that sudden stressful situation. So putting into effect stress management, having control over, how our stress response is, and changing the people that are, in our lives is going to be key to, managing that. So that was definitely a good hit. I definitely love that part because that plays a huge factor in, some of the things we want to start doing as we move into 2025, because we don't have any room for any more stress. We live in the US. This place is this is the worst. Like, Nobody works as much as we do, and nobody has to deal with the compounding stressors, both mental, physical, spiritual, and emotional, that we all have to deal with here.
And Divinity raised it. She said something about people make me mad, and it's true. It takes hours to calm down. And Tashi said, "You, it's you that controls it." I want y'all to do yourself a favor. Anytime you get mad, you get sad, you get angry, any other emotion that comes in, ask yourself why. Why did that make me mad? What made me mad about that? Because you don't need to question what they did. Question why are you mad? What's upset? Maybe there's something that you need to reflect on and work on inside of you. Maybe you feel that they're triggering something that happened in your childhood. That's a trigger of something. You feel insufficient. They're trying to make you feel less than. They can't make you feel less than. You got to know who you are. So that's a question you'd ask. Why am I mad? Why did that irritate me? Why did that frustrate me? Because it's not always, if I remove myself, everything will be great. You'll just be isolated and you won't be able to deal with shit as it comes because shit's going to come at you. So you're going to have to ask yourself, why am I mad? Why does that person frustrate me? Why are they questioning me? Are they questioning me because of me? No, they're questioning you because they're probably intimidated. Do you know yourself? That's the important thing that you need to do. Ask a question for yourself, not for them, but for yourself each time. Why? Why? Why did I get mad at that? Why did it fucking irritate me? That just made me. Ask yourself.
I used to have a lot of triggers, right? And still probably have some. But I realized that when it comes to holistic practice, there's always an emotional and then there's a physical, right? So we got the emotional aspect, asking yourself, what's going on? Why am I being triggered? The physical part, if you're finding yourself getting stressed frequently, I can almost guarantee, I bet a couple of dollars on it, that your B vitamins are fairly low. Because when B vitamins get low, the nerves are more exposed and you're more likely to get triggered. And one B vitamin in particular, I used to give out like it was candy. It was called niacinamide. And I would literally watch people go away for a week. They come back to my office and they'll just be sitting there going, yeah, you know what? My son had pissed me off, but I actually did not feel like throwing him out the window this time. I just kind of shrugged my shoulders because we need some of these B vitamins to help maintain how the nervous system works, especially B1, B12. It helps with the myelin sheath that coats your nervous system, that coats the nerves. So niacinamide will actually help with the brain and how well it responds to stress. And as we are stressing over whatever, is causing those triggers, we end up burning through more of our B5, our B1, our B12. All of them become part of the fuel that gets diverted to cortisol, that gets diverted to helping to maintain the stressed state. Okay. So supplementation can also play a part in there as well. This way you kind of hit all the corners. Again, it's always mind, body, spirit, mind, body, spirit. So there's always going to be a spiritual and an emotional representation of what the physical body is going through. Maybe even adding the two of them, and then we start seeing some results, because Western medicine can be very linear. We see a problem, we fix it, take something to fix that problem that presents itself. But a lot of the problems we experience, it's multifaceted. There's several different layers and pieces to it. So, I wanted to throw that in because I actually had the experience of not having enough niacinamide in my body. And then I started taking niacinamide. I took a nice high dose. I was taking about a good 700 to 1400 milligrams. I read this in a comic book. I only did it for a week though. And boy, I just came down and I was like, yeah, I don't feel like punching anyone into doing anything violent anymore, because I was no longer I was able to get that nutrition that my body and my nervous system and my brain required. And then it made me also have the ability to start doing the self-reflection, because now I'm not getting triggered as much. I can go, well, what is actually contributing to this trigger? It kind of gave me the moment to reflect in the moment that I was in. All right, let's see. Got any questions? All right, we're gonna go to the next one. Anybody want to donate to the next one? I got another one here, but I got three actually. They're like, nope, go Jay. All right, next one is I have reduce your animal protein intake, with a question mark, because a lot of us be going ham on animal protein.
Nerve, you know they about to tussle with you now.
I know. Go ahead. They're going to tussle. It is what it is. Look, I like a good lamb chop every now and again, too. But we ain't supposed to have that thing 3 times a day, 7 days a week. It's still necrotic flesh at the end of the day. So making sure that our bodies have an ample opportunity, because necrotic flesh, animal protein, feeds you. It doesn't feed your microbiome, right? But if your microbiome is 70% of you, then who's taking care of that? If you've ever taken just one antibiotic, I can almost guarantee you've wiped out at least two cornerstone bacteria that your body uses just to function on a regular basis. So animal protein, and I do consume animal protein. I have my times where I'm plant-based, but every now and again I like a lamb chop. I like to consume my animal protein every other day. Okay, no more than 2, at most 4 times within a week. And I like to think of it. Someone had mentioned, what's it called? The blood type diet, right? So in the blood type diet, okay, they'll tell you, yeah, if you're a type O, you can consume tons of animal protein. So then we take that and go, yeah, I can eat this stuff all day, every day. No, that means you are functioning like a lion, right? Lions do what? They eat animal protein and then they fast. They eat fruits and vegetables off the trees. They sit there, they let that stuff marinate, and they will not eat again until when? 2 weeks later, they get another gazelle. I'm not saying wait 2 weeks. I'm saying put some space in between your servings of animal protein, because you are not processing animal protein in 3 hours or less. Okay? So making sure that we space out our animal protein and give our bodies some time to break it down. You're taking it with additional fiber. You're making sure you're using fruits and vegetables that are going to function as digestive enzymes so that it helps it along. That's what animals do. That's what cats do. Big cats do. Okay. And then following up with additional fiber and giving your body a break from the consumption of additional animal proteins. And then, of course, when it comes to animal protein, there's a few that I just don't like. I don't like pork. I'm not a fan of turkey. I'm not a fan of chicken. Why? Because these are the most common. Every big company and big industry has their fingertips in these particular animals for us to consume. And if you're getting it from a very nice source, a nice a farmer's market, or someone that is not utilizing some of the techniques that they use in the management and production of these particular animals, then I'm going to say go for it. But if it's from big industry, absolutely not. Those things ruined my testosterone. You can't pay me to go back to chicken. I haven't had chicken in about 7 or 8 years. You can't pay me to go back to chicken, not in this country.
A personal vendetta.
I have a personal vendetta. That's just me. I got personal vendetta against chicken. Turkey is not on my favorite person's list, and neither is pork, or pig, or pork. And that's because of a lot of the compounds that they use, specifically one called ractopamine, that's used in turkey, and it's also used in pork. And what that does is they give out ractopamine to the turkey and to the pig to increase its body weight, but decrease how much feed it requires, which means it's gaining weight off of less food. That's why they use it. So it's getting big, but it's not eating as much, which means they get to save on half the feed that they would normally get it, which means what? They save a lot of money, but that animal is getting 50% of the nutrition. How do you think that nutrition is going to express in its flesh when you go to consume it? And the other part is the ractopamine doesn't get cooked out. It's not heat sensitive. So you can't fry out the ractopamine, which means it's still in the flesh of the animal that you're consuming, which leads you to consuming heavy quantities of ractopamine, which means what? You're going to require less to gain more weight. And guess what?
Inflammation.
Half of us in the United States, more than half, 68% or whatever, is dealing with weight issues. And it's going to be interconnected with some of the animal proteins that we're consuming, because ractopamine bioaccumulates, which means with every generation, it gets higher and higher and higher, and you don't get rid of it. So some animal proteins I'm not a big fan of. If it's something that isn't common, I'm more than happy to give it a shot. I'm going to open the floor because I'll go off on animal protein. So if anyone else wants to add anything on animal protein, somebody said beef. I'll get to beef. But go ahead.
I think you should have this. This is
Like this is all you. I don't eat meat. I don't. I'm scared.
I do,
I'm
but I
scared to
also
dip back over there. I want a piece of
I have
lamb
a but see,
so
I have a
bad.
pasture raised. I
I'm
also
not
go to
gonna
a
lie.
pasture
That's the one piece of meat that I miss.
is
But
what
I'm
beef.
so scared I'm gonna be sick, and it's not. I feel like it ain't. It's not worth me getting sick for.
For what beef?
That's the only thing.
If you haven't eaten it for
Just
a
a
while,
piece of
just
lamb.
a
I get
small
a piece of
amount.
lamb, but I don't eat any meat.
Mm.
Yeah. I mean,
Like I want to just sneak a little piece. I'll be like, I don't want to suffer for it though.
I always looked at it like having a small piece of animal protein. It kind of keeps me in balance. To have that wide variety of what's being fed in the microbiome. Sometimes you got to feed the bad guys. It is what it is, because they have a job there too.
It's funny because I'm type O and I read the blood type book. I was like, everything on this list I don't like.
Yeah, and keep in mind too, the blood type diet is not nearly as accurate now as it was before because there's a lot of different changes that shows up, with our genetic blueprinting.
And think about how the blood cleanses itself. It's not the same blood when you were that same old blood when you first were born. I mean, we've been introduced to so many different things. So like, it's a great concept if it works for people because some people get great results. I just know when I looked at it, I was like, oh.
Yeah, I find that it can be up to maybe 45 to 60% accurate for a client. So I use it on occasion, but I have to make so many adjustments to it. Like for example, I do like the B blood type because it says no chicken because chicken blocks your absorption of magnesium. So if you're a type B and you're consuming chicken, that's a big no-go for you. But even as a type O, I'm still saying, nah, you might want to kiss that chicken goodbye because the chicken just comes with such a high cost in glyphosate and dioxin and all the other compounds, as well as, it's mass produced. And, there's still an emotional aspect that, we can touch on regarding the animals that we eat, right? So if we're trying to deal with our own emotional state and the animals we're consuming are sad and stressed and depressed, then how do we not expect that to actually wind up expressing within us? Because DNA is what? It's 10% of what you're born with and 90% of your environment, your experiences, your stressors, all the things that triggered you throughout life. And then you have this animal who never seen the light of day, watched all of its, pack mates or what have you either die early. It doesn't know what's going on. It's living in darkness. And then all of a sudden it gets slaughtered. And if you go to I think it's the EPA and you see what they were doing to turkeys, it gets deeper than that. I mean, they got some horrible videos and it goes beyond just turkeys. It goes to cows, it goes to chickens, and it definitely goes to pigs. And I watched some of that stuff. I couldn't even post it because it was that bad. It's horrifying. And then this ends up on your plate. So you got this depressed, miserable, experienced animal that ends up being placed on our plate, and its DNA is 90% of its environment. And then we wonder why our dreams are all messed up. And then we wonder why we're experiencing things like depression and anxiety and stress. It becomes a whole nother layer because we know that animal protein is going to, its nutrient density is going to be based on how that animal was, you know what I'm saying? So that's something that we definitely want to consider. And anytime it's mass produced, we know they're not doing the right thing for that particular animal. So I like to outsource. I eat all the weird stuff. Goat, lamb, bison. Sometimes I'll consume, different types of fish, especially if I can fish it myself. I'm a big fan of mutton because no one's thinking about that. Once it becomes popular, all right, I got to move on. I got to find something else. But I found the most success with those types of foods. And then, of course, not consuming it all the time. It's not a staple. It's something that, I visit, but I don't stay there. Let's see. Somebody.
Well, see, I'm a chick that eats meat, but I don't eat, eat meat all the time. I really don't. I don't eat meat all the time. I'm in Texas. I also go with a regenerative farmer that's been a regenerative farmer for over 50 years. He's had his same cows. I can go out and pet the cows and hang with the cows. Somebody said, what about your butcher? Would your butcher know? If your butcher knows the farmers that it's dealing with, and if he's a good butcher and he wants to deal with only certain farmers, and he's only going to deal with if he's only going to question and to know each one, because some butchers are just getting meat from certain places. But again, you can find regenerative farmers in your area. You can find those people that are taking care of their small, what we would call small batch, that are taking care of their small amount of animals, and that is a local farmer that you can get what you need from. Again, you want those people that are going to be having that are going to be out of stock. It's okay for them to be out of stock. I get lamb from a particular place in Dallas called Burgundy's. He's out of stock sometimes. Sometimes I can't get the lamb because it's not the season. That's not time. And it's not so much it's not the season. It's just their babies haven't come up to the time to where we can slaughter them. So it all depends on what you're doing. I eat bison too. I eat lamb. They have rabbit. Something else they have. They have veal in there too. And so those are things we get. And yes, it might be more expensive, but you may not need as much. And that shouldn't be for every meal. But that's me. And I try to eat less and less as time goes on. I have my moments of vegetarianism and veganism. And I don't like eggs and different things. You said you buy your goat and your lamb from the Amish farm and it tastes so different. It's going to taste different. You're going to be like, this is what meat's supposed to taste like? Because you've been tasting.
That's where I get mine from.
That's where because you've been tasting the poison that the meat are having.
Mm-hmm. So another factor that allowed me to reduce my animal protein intake significantly. So I actually have like a period where I'll consume it. Usually it's going to be in the winter and the fall, and I'll have it for 1 to 2 weeks. Then I'll go plant-based. So I'll have anywhere between 2 to 4 servings of it, and then I'll be pretty much plant-based from that point on, usually followed by a detoxification of some sort. Controlling parasite activity will greatly reduce how much animal protein you consume because parasites love animal protein. And since parasites have this uncanny ability to work in conjunction with bacterially translocated candida, they will tell your brain to consume more. And at the end of the day, they are the ones that are driving our bodies. They monitor neurotransmitters and they control how the receptors in your tongue function. That's why as you start going through different detoxification states, food starts to taste different because now those bacteria and fungus and parasites are no longer adjusting how your brain is interpreting your taste buds, because you got 90,000 receptors in your tongue and every last one of them go to your brain. That's how you know what you like when you eat something that you like, or what you eat something you think you like. It might be something they like, and they're telling you, yeah, keep eating them burgers from Five Guys. I want you to have one at least twice a week because they're good. Enjoy that. And what do animal protein have in it? Loads of B12, right? Because that's why they tell us, oh, you're not getting enough B12. You got to get more B12. You might be getting enough, but you got to feed your friends too, because they're getting their B12 first, and then you can get whatever's left. So, especially when it comes to like what's called your nematodes, your hematodes, or what's classified as helminths, which are parasites that are intestinal worms that live inside your body, they love those B complexes, especially your B12. So you can be taking all the B12 you want. The minute it goes past that intrinsic factor and gets into that small intestines, guess what? It's gone. They're taking taxes first, and then you're going to get whatever's left. And usually that's not going to be enough for you, which is why we tend to have this constant effect where B complexes don't seem to work the same way, or B12 will not work the same way when a person's taking it for an extended period of time, because eventually that's going to lead to replication of the parasites to meet the demand or the higher intake of B12 that's coming into the body. And it just creates an imbalance in the gut.
Somebody said liver. Organ meat is good. Organ meat is necessary. But again, who's your source? What's your source for that organ meat? Is it grass-fed? Is it pasture-raised? Because they also have liver at that one. Yeah.
I actually consume one of my favorite organ meats is cod liver, and I'll consume cod liver and I'll put it in like a stew or a soup or something along those lines. And cod liver actually has some of the highest levels of bioavailable vitamin D, as well as the active form of vitamin A. And what's happening is we think of vitamin A, we think of carrots, but carrots is a hybrid plant. And as a hybrid plant, although it was used for not just, its its beta carotene or its inactive form of vitamin A, it's used for a lot of other things, but it's not the best source for everyone. In fact, some of the studies show that only 20% of human beings have the ability built into our DNA to convert beta carotene into the active form of vitamin A, which means it's only working for 20% of the people. Now, cod liver or cod liver oil, or I just consume the actual cod liver itself, has the active form, and we call that retinol. That means it's actually going to work. And as you know, vitamin A is most important for what? That liver. Your liver needs that vitamin A badly. It's a fat soluble nutrient. So, keep in mind that it's usually something that you're going to want to consume while eating. Okay. But I find that one of the good sources of liver, if you happen to not like beef liver, but beef liver actually has some other great benefits that are different from cod liver. But I've grown very partial to cod liver because you don't need a lot of it. And, we might even remember our grandparents and great grandparents getting some of that cod liver oil that everyone hated. But that's another good source for you to get your vitamin E, your vitamin A, as well as some of that healthier bioavailable vitamin D3 as well. Let's see. Oops. I'm pushing buttons here. Sorry.
Somebody said, so do you guys recommend trying to get the suggested amount of daily protein, but not animals? So,
Yes.
I mean, a suggested amount of daily protein, it all depends on your body type, your weight. A lot of times depends on what you're doing, but yes. Because I guess that's what I go by.
Yeah, I would say it depends on your lifestyle, the type of person that you are. If you prefer animal protein, then you can consume it through animal protein. Some people like to use plant-based proteins. That's perfectly fine. It gets a little tricky when we try to find when they tell us what our dose of protein should be. Because protein, and I've always looked at protein like the word is it's very general, okay? Because the goal is you want to get amino acid chains. How much lysine are you getting? How much methionine are you getting? How much taurine are you getting? That's actually what's important, as opposed to how many grams of protein, because you can eat chicken breast and get, several grams of protein, but it won't cover your full amino acid spectrum, you see. So I found, if you are going to target grams of protein, you're going to want to use good sources of amino acids that have a full amino acid spectrum. Things such as bone broth has a full amino acid spectrum. Okay, you're getting 20 grams of protein, yes, but you're getting 20 grams of a lot of different aminos that are coming with it, which is going to far surpass what you're going to find in chicken. Yeah, you're going to have a little bit more taurine, a little bit more methionine, but you're getting all the rest of those important aminos in it. If you're consuming like a beef gelatin, you're going to have a much broader amino acid spectrum as well. Some people like to use dairy as a source, which also can function as a good protein source. Some people like to use things like cream or yogurt or dairy. Even when it comes to things like yogurt, matter of fact, yogurt, when we make yogurt, you'll have, this separation of yogurt. You'll have that clear liquid watery fluid at the top. Then you have the chunky stuff at the bottom. That water that collects at the top when it separates, we call that whey. And we take the whey and we scrape it off and we put that in the bodybuilder's whey protein, and then he gets to get super big. You get that chunky stuff on the bottom, we call that Greek yogurt, and then they tell you there's X amount of grams of yogurt. But guess what? All the good stuff like the methionine and taurine, it's gone. So essentially you're getting a good amount of grams of protein, but you're not getting a full amino acid spectrum of protein. You understand? So we can still wind up being protein deficient, which can happen to a person who eats chicken 3 times a day, because you're not getting all of the amino acids that your body is supposed to get. You see, so it can get a little tricky when it comes to, how many grams of protein, because they just try to simplify things. If I'm going to target things with protein, I might do some sardines. That might be a good source of amino acids. Sardines are highly underrated. My grandpa was living a long time off of some sardines because he would have it 3 times a week with some crackers early in the morning, and that was it. And it had a healthy fat loaded with olive oil. He would eat the bones and everything. And man, he was a mutant. But that's one of the ways that, we want to be mindful when it comes to when they use that word to kind of simplify, grams of protein. And that's what their job is, to kind of make things easy for us, but at the same time, make it easy for us to overlook what's actually important.
I'll say this. I know every time they tell me how much protein I should be getting, I just don't have the capacity to consume it all. I I don't eat enough times a day to get what they say the recommended amount that I should have, especially because I work out and so on and so forth. So I have been playing with cottage cheese and I don't like it. So I've been mixing it in different stuff because it takes on whatever the flavor is. So I like that because it's giving me enough protein to almost get what I should get on a non-workout day throughout the day. But Jesus, it's a task trying to count protein.
Well, so one of the ways you can kind of maneuver around it is by sipping on your protein. Remember, so we tend to have this belief that protein has to be solid and thick, like a syrup or a shake or something along those lines. And the best protein is water. It's liquid. You can sip on it. So I used to, my aunties, they were big on beef gelatin because I told them about, what I was doing to try and grow my little bit of hair back and stuff. So I was taking beef gelatin and I would throw it in a cup of coffee and I'd go about my day. And, a little bit of beef gelatin, you can get it from Vital Proteins, 20 grams in a scoop, right? You're getting a full amino acid spectrum. In fact, beef gelatin, when combined with the fat, is considered a survival food, meaning when nothing is around, the nuclear whatever has happened, zombie apocalypse, guess what? You can survive off of a fat and beef gelatin. It won't taste good because it's going to be flat and plain, but that's why it's so hard to find because all the doom preppers then purchased it all because they combine that with a little bit of lard and some beef gelatin. They're guaranteed to live forever, or at least, for a very long period of time. So it's telling us that it has all the basic things that our body requires in order to maintain our amino acid levels. And not only that, but address all of the full amino acid spectrum. So I would take the beef gelatin and I would throw it in a cup of coffee. Maybe I would throw it in some vegetable broth or what have you. And I'm sipping 20 grams of protein that is as thin as water. So now you're getting a liquid with protein or amino acids in it. And then you can still cover some of your trace elements. You might even put a little bit of your Celtic salt in there. So you got some of your sodium in there. You can get a lot of different things in just by kind of combining it and not having to consider always targeting something that's thick and heavy and chunky and you got to chew all the time because that's a lot to consume. So I'll fill in my gaps with that. I also like to use eggs. Okay, if I can get my hands on it. Now I will eat an egg, but I got friends with actual birds, so I'll consume that. But I have a preference towards duck eggs and pheasant eggs. Those are the ones, quail eggs. Those are the ones that I usually go after. And because, again, they're not popular. Nobody really cares about them. Everyone's looking for the chicken egg. So I kind of divert to the other sources, and they're very high on the amino acid spectrum, as well as giving you a lot of access to some of the healthier fats as well. And fat is everything. And that's a whole nother topic. I won't even get into fat because there's a lot of interesting studies that they claim is supposed to be what they are. And come to find out everything that a lot of the issues that we're dealing with is connected to an imbalance or an issue with us not getting enough high quality fat into our bodies.
MJ said that they love cottage cheese, but they thought anything from the South is bad.
I'll say
Moderation kind of person. I'm not a dairy consumer highly, but when I need something and the body asks for it, whatever it is, I'm going to give it because there's a reason that I may need it. So I know that when I'm doing a lot and I've overexerted myself and my appetite is not what it could be, that's when I'll use the cottage cheese or I have tried a clear protein. It's okay.
Bone broth. Before I go work out, I hit some bone broth, throw some collagen in it, collagen peptides. I'm good.
I'm gonna try the bone broth and see if that helps. I would like to just drink something because
it'll keep you satiated and it'll also give you the energy you need to go lift some weights because that's what I do before I go lift weights in the morning.
Wow.
Is hit up some bone broth. That'll do a good job. Yeah, what was I gonna say? I was gonna say something else. Oh, I can't remember.
Yeah, the only problem I used to have with dairy, but I'll be outsourcing my dairy now, is a lot of the dairy, you got our cows that we buy our dairy from all the time, and then you have the A2 cow. And that's that old school original protein sequence cow that we have a higher degree of breaking down those proteins, versus the one that we mass produce, because we like to fix things or make things better to meet the demand of the people. So if you can find yourself an A2A2 cow, or go to an Amish market and find your dairy there, you'd be very surprised how much easier it is for you to break that down and digest it.
What I will say is that's what I did. So we have an Amish store not far, and the cottage cheese is where I got it from. And no problems. And usually, like now, if I have anything with lactose in it, I know I've had it. And so I didn't have any problems, because that was another one of my things. Like, is my stomach gonna be tore up for this? But I made some lasagna. It was delish. Didn't even know the difference. It tastes just like it. I cried about it because I was like, what if it don't taste like it's supposed to? And not knowing, my ignorance, because I never ate cottage cheese because it looks disgusting. But when I blended it out, it was like nice and smooth. I was like, oh, okay. And it just took on the taste of what I was cooking.
Yeah, I'm lactose intolerant, but when I got my hands on some A2A2, raw dairy, unpasteurized, non-homogenized, that hit different. It hit completely different, because normally I would eat dairy. If I had some ice cream, it's a crime scene. Don't go in the bathroom after me, because it's not good, and it just runs right through me. I get the bubble guts, and it doesn't take long. It's like my stomach was like, yeah, we're shutting the faucet off on your ass, and immediately everything's coming out the back end, and I'm like, yo, this is insane. I just wanted a Haagen-Dazs.
Right, like I just wanted a little bit of ice cream.
Just wanted some Haagen-Dazs, and I can't do that anymore. So, but then I found out about that raw, unpasteurized, non-homogenized dairy. I brought it from my cat, but I had to sample it. And what they don't tell us, or what we fail to realize, is that every type of milk that is produced by an animal, including breast milk, comes with enzymes to help us break it down. Because if we have a newborn baby, that newborn baby does not have a fully functional liver for several months, which is why you don't feed the newborn baby any actual food. You have to wait till 10 months or a year, what have you, right? So the breast milk has an enzyme in it to help the baby break down the breast milk. If you boil breast milk, what would happen? It won't work, right? You're going to kill all the enzymatic activity. You're also going to kill all the healthy bacteria, and you're going to break apart all the proteins, right? Now, same thing happens with other animals like goats and cows, especially if it's an A2A2 cow. And what I found was when I ingested that particular type of milk, I didn't have any problems. And then I started gravitating towards the cream and the butter. And I said, oh, this is a whole nother ball game now. So I was able to reintroduce dairy into my diet as long as it has the full enzymatic activity. Because most of the dairy that we buy in our supermarkets is pasteurized and homogenized, meaning it's been cooked and boiled to a certain temperature to kill off all the bacteria, including the good bacteria that produces the lactase for us to digest the lactose. And it's been homogenized, which means they're stripping out all the fat, because they told us that fat is bad. But fat is 90% of what your hormones are made out of. My testosterone is 90% fat. So how my testosterone will be structured will be based on the type of fat that I consume. And if I'm eating a lot of seed oils, which is what most of us end up consuming because they put it in everything, every potato chip that you pick up, there's a seed oil in it, right? Then I'm going to have a poor structure for some of my hormones that have such a high amount of lipids and fats in it. So I found that just having a small amount of dairy, and I don't do it every day, I'll have it 2-3 times a week in small amounts. Sometimes I'll do a little bit of heavy cream. Sometimes I'll do a small amount of butter, okay, or ghee or clarified butter. Sometimes I'll do a small amount of goat's milk or goat's cheese, because I agree more with the goat version of the goat's dairy. I find just a small amount causes no issues, and it allows me to go throughout the majority of the day without having to consume meals. It kind of powers me through, so to speak. So like for today, I had a little bit of goat's milk, very small amount earlier today. I've been up since 5. It's almost 7 o'clock. I have not eaten yet. I'm gonna go home and probably make myself a huge pot of vegetables, and I got some beans in a crock pot making some
And it's
pot.
funny because I could, well, they gave me regular milk, but I couldn't tolerate it. So I had to drink goat's milk my first year.
Mm-hmm.
And in my mind, I was like, why don't I still like it? I mean, I don't really care for milk at all. Just like to drink a cup of milk. But I was like, I wonder why I don't. I'm going to have to go back and see if I like it now because my palate has changed so much.
Yeah, yeah. And if you happen to find a happy goat somewhere, I mean, there's a reason why baby goats are called kids, and we also have kids, you know. So there's a connection there, you know, and depending on where you look, sometimes people may find it, depending on their spiritual or religious practice, they're going to find a lot of information about the goat and the goat's milk in the Bible and the Injil. So there's a lot of stuff going on with certain types of milks and how we're supposed to consume it. Of course, you know, you want to make sure it's a great source and, you know, pay attention to things that are going on the outside as far as, you know, people are talking about H1N1 and all that other stuff that's going on. So, you know, keep your ear to the environment. But other than that, I'd say it might be an interesting topic because, again, when I found my little kitten, I could not feed her milk out of the supermarket. It was said that she would pass. Animals cannot, puppies and kittens cannot consume the dairy that they sell in the supermarket. If it's pasteurized or homogenized, that animal will be dead in less than a week. So in order for them to survive, they have to receive the actual fat. And the fat is what supports the hormones, which supports growth. If testosterone is needed and is a molecule that's used for what? Building muscular tissue. You need, in order to rebuild muscular tissue from a state of hypertrophy, you have to have a testosterone molecule in order for that protein to bind. Without it, it doesn't work. So the structure of that hormone is going to determine how much weight, how much muscle mass, and what your muscular density will be. You know, so I've seen significant improvements, you know, for me just by incorporating the right sources of fat, and it makes a lot of the amino acids and proteins that I do utilize work that much better. Let's see. Okay. All right. I got a couple. I still got two more, but the last one is, I'm gonna talk about parasites, and then I'm gonna talk about the parasite cleanse because that's the last one.
What's next then?
Parasite cleansing.
Oh, I
Yeah.
definitely should go there. I mean,
All right.
that's
Listen. Top of the year when it's wintertime, I do a parasite cleanse every year. So I have one scheduled for this January the 27th. And it's a group parasite cleanse. So I detox every season. And in the wintertime, I target parasites. And I actually do it in a group with my community. And I open it up to everyone to go onto the website. You can look at some information regarding parasite cleansing and the process that we go through. I think it's about 18 consecutive days of parasite cleansing. It also includes a lot of information. All the stuff that I can't say on TikTok, I can say in my group chat, and I can say it in our Zooms to give us an understanding of what's actually going on when it comes to eradicating parasites. It also includes a package of herbs that I procure myself. I usually go out and I gather black walnuts at different times and different seasons so I can optimize their use in part of the cleanse, and I combine it with several other compounds, and then we utilize them in a particular order, and you actually learn how to do a proper parasite cleanse, which includes building your body up first before you try to go get rid of parasites. Do not just start taking a parasite tincture or something like that just because I want to get rid of them, because all parasite cleanses deplete the body of something, okay? And sometimes if it's not properly prepared, then you're just opening the door for the parasites to return, okay? You also want to make sure you're doing it in layers. So I go over all of that information and I share the process that I do for parasite cleansing. Currently, I think it's $325 on the website, and it includes the package of herbs, which is you get a small jar of sea moss, which is a dehydrated form of sea moss that I provide that's got the herbs already mixed in with it. So then you take a short little class with us on how to rehydrate it and how to reactivate the sea moss gel. We use that in conjunction with the parasite tincture, which nobody's formula is. My formula is like the bomb. I got so much stuff in that thing. It's insane. One of the secret ingredients, not really a secret, we use is witch hazel, which is one that a lot of compounders don't use. And witch hazel is very effective, especially at helping to function as an astringent, which means it's going to squeeze things out of the colon, right? So if there's something attached to a poop that's attached to the lining of your colon, if you don't string that out, it's going to survive. Most parasites like nematodes, helminths, and hematodes, they're 1 to 2 cells thick. They're also translucent. So after you take your go lightly to go and have a colonoscopy, they're invisible. Your doctor's going to say, oh yeah, you look clean. Great colon. Have a nice day. See you later. The parasite, he's chilling. He's still there. You're not able to see its scorlax still attached to your colonic wall because they're translucent and they're 2 to 3 cells thick, which means they're not that big at all. And once the poop comes back, then they pretty much know what to do. It also includes a detoxification tincture, which is meant to help support the other organ systems that you're going to be using to get rid of them. You got to support your colon if you're trying to kill parasites. You can't be killing parasites, be partially constipated, not have enough water in your diet, and then kill a parasite, because all it's going to do is die, stay in the colon, and then start to cook your colon. Because most bacteria, fungus, and parasites, they're going to release toxic gases after they pass away. And one of the ones that they like to release is ammonia. So you're going to have an ammonia-like gas being released in the body unless the process is done properly. Then we add in tons of fiber. We only function as plant-based or vegan during the detoxification. So we avoid animal protein altogether, but it's only about 18 days. So you can skip the fish and the chicken and the beef and the pork and all that other stuff for a short period of time. Because a lot of some of the parasites, they enter through those means. Okay, so we don't want to be putting more eggs on top of trying to kill the old eggs and the old mated pairs of, depending on whatever types of parasites you may be dealing with. And we'll be done just before, I think, Valentine's Day. So you'll be able to still enjoy the holiday. And then we always do what we call like an exit Zoom. So this way you know how to reintegrate eating and carrying these new habits into post detoxification, because you don't want to go from feeling fabulous, getting rid of parasites, looking at what's coming out in the toilet, going, "Oh my God, all that was in there," and then you just open up with some Taco Bell. You don't want to do that. So all that is included, as well as activities throughout the process. We're all in an encrypted group chat so that we can share some really good information. Like I said, it's all the stuff that I couldn't say here. And then we complete our detox, and then we wait till the second detox, which is going to be in the spring. I think that one's scheduled for towards the end of April. We call that one spring cleaning and chelation. And it's a whole system to optimize how our bodies are meant to how we're meant to assist our bodies in detoxification in today's world. Okay, because it's different now. Now we got to do a lot more and make sure that things are adjusted accordingly, because there's so many different avenues of toxins coming in the body that's going to help parasites. Because if you're eating genetically modified food, you got genetically modified parasites. They don't function the same way. They're learning to adapt in an environment that is far more dangerous than it was before, which makes them stronger. Okay, they're resistant to a lot of the different medications that are being given, and they're learning how to adapt and survive. And they're mutated now because we eat mutated food. If it's genetically modified, they're genetically modified. So we have to make constant adjustments. That's what good practitioners, what we're supposed to be doing. And then, so I urge everyone, definitely check out the website. Go to herbalchemistry.com. Chemistry is spelled with a K instead of a CH. You can also go to the link tree. As a matter of fact, tomorrow my ebook should be coming out, and the ebook is on parasites. It's called They Thrive to Survive. They live within us, right? And it talks about some of the 5 most common parasites that we are most likely to encounter. Okay, and it'll actually go in and describe what these parasites do in the body. How do they rob you of nutrition? It also has a few good self-tests that you can take just to compare your symptoms to the possibility of parasite infestation. For example, if you are a person who drools when you sleep, you wake up in the middle of the night between the hours of 1 and 4, you clench your teeth. These are symptoms of parasite activity. Okay, non-specific amino acids released by certain parasites will cause you to clench your teeth, especially in the middle of the night. You'll be grinding, and then they'll tell you to here chew on what you call it, so that you can keep your teeth from grinding. But grinding of the teeth is oftentimes connected to parasite activity, which is why we find it in children, and then it carries on in adult because we haven't done parasite cleanses. This is the only country that doesn't like to do parasite cleanses, by the way. I don't know what it is, but I think it has a lot to do with a lot of the new studies that are coming out in regards to parasites contributing to so many other factors and exacerbating other dis-ease. Okay, especially the big C. They're finding a lot of different connections between parasite activity, making anything to do with the big C a worse thing to deal with. Okay, especially autoimmune disorders, especially issues with the gut. Okay, gut dysbiosis, all of those things can point back to parasites. They make things inhospitable to allow their friends to do a better job on working negatively against your body. Parasites work with H. pylori, Helicobacter. They talk to each other. They're like friends. They work with Candida. They talk to each other. They're friends. So you sometimes have to take out that central unit before you can even bother addressing the peripheral problems, which are what is going to show up when we go to the doctor. The doctor is going to see the H. pylori, go after the H. pylori, send you home, and then all of a sudden, a year and a half later, 2 years later, problem comes back, or it's different. It finds a different way to express itself because now we've given it an opportunity to change how it functions in your body because we never got to the root cause of it. And targeting parasites is just part of getting to that root cause.
Somebody was asking about your witch hazel. The witch hazel, is it in your tincture?
I actually have witch hazel in one of the compounds. Yes, witch hazel is in my parasite tincture, but I use the actual plant, not the witch hazel that you buy in the store.
He only sources the best.
Well, I mean, part of
No, I'm saying that's what I'm saying.
Oh
I
yeah.
think they're all asking, like, I didn't think you could drink witch hazel. Which brand?
No. I am not advising
no.
anyone to go drink
I
witch
was like,
hazel.
he's not doing that. So I was like, explain that to them because I keep seeing that. I was like, he's not.
They were, and I was like, which brand? I was like,
No. We don't drink witch hazel. No, I am not advising anyone to drink. I don't drink witch
frolics
hazel.
in the forest, people. He frolics in the forest.
Yes, I do.
And he also has other sources. He also has other sources that he gets it sent to him. So he's a frolicker, and he also sources it other places.
Right. So I'll
Real
outsource
stuff.
different plants,
do
and then I'll
not
combine them
drink
with plants
witch
that are local.
hazel.
Yeah, no. We're not drinking the witch hazel you get in the store.
Not drink
That's not even fully
witch
witch hazel. They be doing too much extra to that. No. And I mean, I guess we would. That's the witch hazel people see. So nobody really thinks of the plant and all that other stuff. So I get it. I just wanted you to explain that so they can see in the tincture what it is.
Yes. So if you can go to the link tree. My link tree actually has one of the tinctures. Actually has several tinctures, but there is a parasite tincture on there. Now the one that we'll be using during the parasite detox, that one's going to be a little bit more complex because when people do the detox, I give them what I'm using, and I change my formula. My formula changes every 6 months. So because everything is always ever changing and I'm always learning something new. So I'm like, oh, I got to kill this too. So then I end up adding or deleting or changing the concentration. But there is a base formula that's in my link tree that you can go and you can access. You can purchase that as well. And I think that base actually has a very small amount, low percentage of witch hazel. And the witch hazel also functions as a synergizer along with the other compounds that are in it, which is some of the ones that most of us are familiar with. You're going to be familiar with things like black walnut. You're going to be familiar with things like wormwood. And then it also comes with the proper instructions on how to utilize an actual parasite tincture. It should not be something that's used every day for 30 consecutive days. Please do not do that. That is not what we do. It's meant to be used intermittently, on and off. 5 days on, 5 days off. 5 days on, 5 days off. Maybe 7 days, depending on how your body responds. Then you take a break. You put it away. You come back next season. You might do it again, or you might just do 1 week. Okay, so it really depends on the person, but generally it's meant to be used intermittently. You use it for a short period of time. You give your body a break. Okay. This way your body has enough time to remove all the toxins. Remember, if you're fasting for 5, 6, 7 days, I can almost guarantee if you haven't done an extended fasting program, you're still going to take a dump on the 6th day. You're going to take a dump. After fasting and not consuming food, I fasted for 11 days. I still took a massive poop on the ninth day, and it was massive. And I'm like, yo, where did it come from? But my 6-pack was like 9-packing at that time, and I couldn't believe that I was still holding on to that much fecal matter after not consuming anything other than water and broth for 11 days. So a lot of what we hold on to is residual. Okay. You don't poop everything out in one shot and end up being empty. You want to give your body an opportunity to start removing some of those toxins, which is why, using it intermittently for 5 to 7 days and then taking a break and then going back to visit it again is one of the best approaches to utilizing it. Let's see. Yay for foraging. I love foraging. Let's see. All right, I think we're good. Oh, yeah, we're good. It's almost 7 o'clock. All right. Well, I think I covered everything. You got anything, ladies?
Good. I know we're gonna do another one of these. Are we gonna do it in January? We'll figure it out. We'll probably have to do another one.
Absolutely. Yeah, we definitely got to do one.
And
Yeah,
so
because,
before his you said you're doing your cleanse on the 27th?
yeah, the cleanse is
Maybe
starting on
before then?
the 27th of January.
We could probably try one before then, so you can get another. The last few people, tweak them out.
Yeah.
I'm in the U.S.,
It's virtual, and he'll send it to you.
but it is virtual. Okay, so the detox is virtual, and we ship a lot of places. So it is a virtual, and then we also record all of our Zooms. So even for people who are in like different time zones or they're working and they can't, come to the live Zoom, we record it and then we post it in our group chat for all the team members to view at their leisure. This way you can go back if you want to take notes. If you have questions later on, you get to share them in the group chat because we do things more successful as a community, so if everyone is fasting, everyone knows what everyone's feeling like on that second and third day, and there's a certain level of accountability as well as camaraderie that comes with, I'm not the only one trying to do this, so I find that it works really effective, especially when everyone is on the same page and we're posting every day what we're doing and how we're doing it and why we're doing it. And then being able to add in the emotional and the stress and anxiety and all the things that are interconnected with detoxification, because it is an emotional and spiritual experience. There's no emptying your bowels and not having an emotional, spiritual response to it, because our gut is connected to our brain. And the way your epiphyseal dorsi will function, it will function vastly different when you have less food in your stomach. The less food you have in your stomach, the more blood you have elsewhere. It starts to activate other things. And in order to get to that process, sometimes we need the proper coaching in order to do it the right way. 24 hours into a detoxification, depending on what you're doing, you're going to activate stem cells in your stomach. What are stem cells? They're the stuff that makes you age backwards. They're the ones that tells your body how to actually be and not mutate. 72 hours from that point, now you're going to have stem cells, and the peripheral stem cells are going to start to activate and regenerate and repair things the way that they're supposed to be. While we're in this process of consumption, it does not work. We're just trying to regenerate and repair. So the goal is to put the body into what we call a state of autophagy. And the autophagy is when we recycle proteins. Your body takes the garbage, looks for a weaker protein or weaker cell, regenerates it, and spits out a brand new one. And this is the secret to aging backwards. In this case, it's like less is more. And that's what I found works best for me. I don't have to consume a lot. I think my process of digestion and processing of proteins is that it's never been this optimal. I can eat one solid good meal and I'm getting every single gram of protein out of that meal, versus eating 30 grams of protein, your body only processes 15 grams, and you got to give 5 grams to parasites, and so on and so forth.
So people are asking, how do you manage anemia when fasting, or how do you manage diabetes? Actually, fasting is great for diabetes as well as anemia. And he's also gonna. Oh, you go ahead. Why am I saying this?
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
No. And he's also going to, when he detoxes like either one of his detox. We are going to build you up before we tear you down. We're going to give you the supplies and the supplements that your body is going to need in order to go through the detox. Because we're not just going to let you go through it raw. You're going to get toe up if we let you go through it that way. So we're going to make sure to build you up, make sure you have the nutrients. And he usually knows what each one of you probably needs, because that's what the point of the lives are and the Zooms are, and having access to him. That's the point of having access.
Especially when it comes to like anemia. So when it comes to like anemia and fasting, or anemia and parasites, parasites actually are known for doing one particular thing. Their job, the microbes, their function is to scavenge metals, toxic metals, right? So if you are exposed to toxic metals, or they accumulated from having the old versions of the dental amalgams in your body for 30 years, if you smoke cigarettes, if you use aluminum-based deodorants, there's so many entry points. Chewing certain chewing gums will expose you to metals. Having certain cereals, they put titanium dioxide in there, will expose you to certain metals. Metals will increase parasite activity because parasites, one of their functions is to scavenge metals. So the body wants them to live. The only difference is that parasites, they're not going to discriminate. They're going to look at iron in your blood cell as a metal too. Okay, and they're going to start targeting that a lot of times. So sometimes it's not necessarily an issue with the structure of that blood cell. It's who's stealing different pieces and parts of that blood cell. So, when it comes to things like fasting and detoxing is actually going to help to manage that. It's going to help to improve how your body is able to recycle those proteins that don't need to be around and make them bigger, stronger, give it a better oxygen carrying capacity, and it improves its size and strength. That's what we want to do with our blood cells. And again, blood is always delivering things and dropping things off and doing stuff. When do we ever really give it a break? I treat blood like it's an organ, so it's one of the most important organs because it's going to decide what gets stored where. If fibroids are showing up, guess who's dropping the stuff off over there? Okay, how are those accumulations of masses showing up if there's not a blood-rich supply dropping that stuff into that area? Blood is the mechanism, and sometimes we just need to have an opportunity to reprogram how your blood is working, which means removing some of those toxins that your blood is carrying, and then that will increase its oxygen carrying capacity, its size, and its strength, and its overall function. All right, let's see. What about people who work and need food and energy, and how do you fast? That would be, I would probably end up going over that in the detox because it does take a process and there is a learning curve, especially for people who are being introduced to it. So there's a way for us to configure what works best for that particular person. All right. And oftentimes it's identifying what type of energy your body is going to require in order to maintain itself, because you're only burning two types of fuel. Okay. When we think of eating, we're just thinking a broad thing of eating. We're not thinking of what is your body using as a fuel source. Is it using glucose or are you using fat? One's activating insulin, the other is not. You understand? So there is a bit of a learning curve. And as we go through the process, that's when you're going to learn, oh my goodness, this is how he's able to go 18 hours without eating because my body's loaded on fat and it's now using fat as a primary fuel source instead of sugar. Sugar goes up, sugar goes down. You need more sugar, just like that. But fat is a little bit different. You want your body to have the ability to burn multiple sources of fuel. And once you can burn two types of fuel, it's like you got a hybrid car. I'm driving a hybrid. So I can burn a little bit of gas, or I can run off electricity. Okay. But that's how our bodies are made. We want to make sure both of those systems are actually working.
I think somebody asked, I don't know if you missed it, would this be a good fast for their very first fast?
Absolutely. This one is actually probably going to be one of the easier ones because it's a shorter fast. The spring cleaning and chelation and my Mars and Venus, those are like 30 something days, I think. So those are going to be longer and more intense, and I think they're definitely going to be more expensive, but their function is to strip out metals. And then the third one is to rebalance hormones. But this one is a very short fast, or short detox, I should say. There's fasting involved, but the overall length of the detox is much shorter. And it's great for those who are wanting to be introduced to the process of detoxification, especially if you want to be introduced to the process of parasite cleansing, because you're going to learn in the middle and towards the end how to keep this process going and what to do afterwards, when you should do it again, how frequently you should do it, and how to utilize different detoxification processes to enhance it. So it's definitely a good detox to use to introduce yourself to. And that's why it's structured the way that it is at the beginning of the year.
I don't see anything else. Oh, I think somebody asked how to detox the blood.
That's a whole.
I don't know if they were asking specifically to something you said or if it was a general question. I wasn't sure because it came in a
I think
little
that's
late.
general. I said that's a whole nother conversation.
Yeah.
Right. That's
That's
another
another
live
live.
for
Detox the blood. Reprogram it. Detox or reprogram, question mark. That's what we'll call it.
Oh, that'll be our next
right.
one.
Yeah, because that goes into a lot of different factors. What's
Then that would
affecting the blood?
definitely
How do we
segue into
build
that
good?
the whole eating by your blood type.
Yeah, how to build good
So
blood
remember,
protein, the herbs that we can use to support it, how we support the kidneys and the liver in that process, because they do it too. Okay, all that plays a huge part. What your stomach is doing will determine what builds up in the blood and how much the blood has to work. That's how creatine can sometimes end up in the urine. It's so many layers on it. It's I wish it was linear and straight to the point, but the human body is such a wonderfully complex machine. And
and you got to remember the blood touches everything, so it's gonna almost impact everything.
absolutely. Awesome. All right, it's 7:07. I gotta go.
Yes.
This is fantastic. Long overdue. Keep posted if you haven't followed. Make sure you follow all of us. I don't know somebody else is hosting this time. So the next one.
I'll host the next one. I think
Okay.
because I think it was you and then him. It just was a long time between you and him, so I think I'm the next.
Okay. So we try to do this once a month ish.
Within the year, guys, within the year.
Couple hours on on a day that we pick. We usually a post so that everybody is aware. If you follow us all, you'll see it somewhere to make a video so that you can come in. We ask questions. We stayed on topic today.
Ooh,
I can't believe it. We usually go up the mountain, over the river, but we stayed on topic. So thank you guys for keeping us on topic and the questions were really, really great.
Awesome. All right. Peace and good health, everyone. And we will see you very soon. Herb Gotti out.